Willis Jackson on tenor sax, introducing the title track of his 1960 album, Cookin' Sherry. Brother Jack McDuff on organ, Bill Jennings on guitar, Wendell Marshall on bass, and Bill Elliott on drums. This is Leid Stories. I'm Utrice Leid. And we're going to try a little something today that we've tried before, and that's to test your news analysis skills. Lots and lots is going on, and it would be good to know what you appreciate of these news events. Because you see, we are always told what the news is. And to be very frank about it, we have conditioned ourselves to wait to be told, because we are so dependent on what media tells us is the story. What the facts are, you getting it from some media outlet or the other, minus your own take on things. And as you know, this is a thing I stress all the time on this program. You have a brain, and it belongs to you, and it is sovereign territory. And so much of what we all should get a sense of as news would be a combination. Of course, we cannot wipe out the news media institutions altogether. We do depend on them to bring us information. But we have to train ourselves to always go the additional mile, which is to examine for contradictions and to examine what is being offered. Does it make sense? Does it even raise more questions? And so we train ourselves to be defensive consumers of information. You don't just open yourself up and, whatever is said in Newsweek or Time or any other newspaper or news outlet, it's not meant for you to just consume whole. You should inspect. Do a little analysis of your own. And then think about what is being said to you, and more importantly, what is not being said. So I'm going to just give you some clues, maybe one or two words. It might even be, if I'm really generous, a whole sentence. But your job is to tell us what these words conjure up in your head. A, what is meant for you to know as far as the media is concerned. This is what you ought to know. But more importantly, I'd like you to tell us what is being left out, what is not known, what is not discussed or said. Okay, so listen carefully and call in at 888-874-4888. Let's see what your spirit tells you to do and to say. That's very fascinating. It's not a matter of being right or wrong, you understand. It is a matter of facing yourself with the possible limits that we all suffer from, because we depend on this thing called the media to tell us what the news is, right? We don't have an independent way of making sense of the news. They have us. They have us all the time. So every now and then, it pays to slow down after they have given and shared the information, and then you decide, based on your experience or your expertise or your common sense, what makes sense and what does not make sense. Okay. 888-874-4888. What you do is you call and you and you see what's going to be confronting you when I give you the cues. What is it that you are going to be asked to respond to, and how will you respond? Because you don't know in advance what is going to be asked of you. And that's a great way to go. That's a fantastic way to go. You know, when I ran a journalism training program, the very first thing, I kid you not, the very first thing that the participants will run into is a test every single morning. A test. You're walking into test unknown. And it's always about something in the news. And your job not only is to know something about it, something about the subject, but to tell us the significance of the issue. All right. So who is going to go up first? Let's see. Oh, we have no takers. We have no take. Look, I thought you were brave people. Take a chance. Nobody's going to beat you up. Nobody's going to run around town with a loudspeaker saying that you didn't know. You still be safe. We still love you. And by the way, it happens to everybody. The media, this tells us too, there's a kind of herd mentality. Of course, a big story is a big story. You can't avoid it. You can't avoid it. A story becomes a big story because of its significance, its likely impact, the news values in the story. Is it about tragedy? Is it about victory? Is it about something good or something particularly bad? But it is a thing that happens in the media. we all have a sense of what news is. All right, we have our first candidate, Mookie from Connecticut. Hello.
Yeah, I wasn't going to call in, but no takers. So I wanted to
We
call.
have takers now.
What was it? What was the question? So,
The first
considering the
topic I'm going to ask you to address is the Catholic Church and the law.
Ooh. Okay, this is my clues.
Yeah, it's woo.
Right. Okay.
The Catholic Church and the law. What does that immediately bring your mind to?
Okay. There are many, not just some, who would say the Catholic Church is the law. So let's
but don't play semantics. Don't play semantics. The Catholic Church and the law. There was a recent major convocation of the hierarchy, the Catholic hierarchy in Baltimore, and it concluded just last week. What was significant there as it pertains to the law?
Yeah, I'm unaware of that event. I can only say that it's the situation with the Church, the Catholic Church, is far beyond damage control. Nothing they can do will fix it because they're not really trying to fix it. They're just still playing that old cover-up game.
All right, but you're going very nice and broad. I want you to hone in on this recent convocation that we had. But you gave us a good start. Thanks a lot, Mookie, for calling. Clara from Philadelphia.
Hey, Trace.
The Catholic Church and the law.
Well, what happened was there was a convocation of bishops, and they were supposed to take a stand. I don't know the specifics. I forget. That would have been more progressive in terms of the way they handled the abuse problems, and the Pope issued a statement that they were not to make any of those decisions were supposed to be postponed. They should not make any decision about the Church's legal responsibilities. And then today, I heard that. I see the Church is outside the law, and what is happening now is in Philadelphia we're having a battle about trying to extend to make it so that a person can sue much longer than was the statute of limitations would be extended.
Right, to extend the statute of limitations within which
a person now the Church
who believes he or she has been harmed by the Church can take legal action.
And the other part, one more part of it about the Church. Okay, go ahead.
You're winning the prize.
Could I tell you the rest of it, what they did? The Church... The Church is saying that they will decide what their penalties will be, and the DA here is fighting that.
Okay. What is significant in your view? Now, we're talking about you personally. What is significant in your view about the conclusion of this very, very important convocation of church leaders within the Catholic Church, leaving Baltimore with this most important piece of business not at all concluded or even addressed?
Well, to me, they demonstrated a complete lack of integrity on the part of the group as well as on the part of the individuals. They just caved in. And it's as if one man's word is ruling everything. And so this has to be handled by the true legal system, not theirs. They don't intend.
You see, there's a reason you were born. You were born to answer this question. Go ahead.
Well, let me tell you this. You're going to give me another one? I want to say this.
You did a great job, but continue because you have a little bit more to add to it to polish off the whole thing.
I've been dealing with this in general this morning in terms of the way people react to truth or fail to react. And I was thinking that, I know this is, I was thinking that people who have a liberal arts education are not able to think. And I was thinking that when I went to school, it really meant something to have a liberal arts education. And this is what's missing. People don't want to hear and they don't want to think. That was
so you got it. You got it. You hit the nail on the head. This could have been a major moment of progress for the church, but whether the church chooses to take the opportunity to rectify this systemic problem, whether the church chooses to do so or not, the other answer that you gave to the other question was that now there has to be pressure brought because it appears as if the Pope of Rome is making decisions as to what constitutes legal interest and what does not. Mm-hmm. And that's not what he's supposed to be doing. Could you think of a reason that there is a technical problem that they've been wrestling with? I'm talking about the law community, that has allowed the Pope, not just this Pope, but all other popes, to kind of enjoy a sense of immunity from these questions.
Well, what comes to mind is the fact that the Vatican is actually a nation.
Oh, I love you! I love you! I love you! I love you! I love you!
It's mutual.
That is absolutely correct. But continue.
Well, this
would be time here.
Pardon, what was the last thing you said? Continue? Well, the fact is that this would be called interference in another nation's government and decisions, although we do it all the time. It doesn't matter about Nicaragua and other places like that. This is the Vatican, and there's a lot of money there, a whole lot of money.
Yes, there's a lot of money and there's a lot of power. And this is a major impediment, actually, to justice. Mm-hmm. Because the Vatican being its own independent nation, the Pope not only is the head of the Catholic religion, if you will, but he's also a leader of the world, just like any other elected leader of the world. Yeah. He enjoys, and his institution enjoys, a measure of diplomatic protection. And this might be one of the major things that would have to be tackled in order to bring the church as an institution into account for crimes or alleged crimes committed of a nature of sexual abuse. And it's not just sexual abuse. There's a matter of, for example, fraud. There's a matter of money laundering. There's a matter of the church being connected with major drug dealers around the world. There's a matter of the church improperly influencing elections around the world. There's a lot of stuff that falls into what we would say the regular world that the church has been accused of doing, but it hasn't gone far in terms of investigation. But, you just started us on the highest possible point level today. I'm so thrilled by your answers and by your understanding of things. So this little convocation that they had in Baltimore, you see how massively important it was and how significant it is that all that firepower was in Baltimore, and nothing happened.
Nothing.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much, Clara, for getting us started today. You should be proud of yourself all day today and for the rest of the week because you've done your job. and did it well. Thank you so much. Sharif from Queens, are you up to a little analysis?
Yes, I am, and thank you very much. And I sincerely hope your health continues to improve.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. All right, I have a doozy for you.
Uh-huh. Okay, what you want to talk about the Pope or the Catholic Church?
Oh no, that was answered. We can't do better than what Clara has done. We can't go beyond that.
I just like to add one little small thing to it: a criminal organization. Okay, and I'm ready for the next question.
Okay. Migrants advance, troops retreat.
You said troop retreat?
Troops retreat. Troops, plural.
Okay.
Migrants advance, troops retreat.
Okay. Is that from any particular or specific place in the world?
It's right here in the good old US of A.
Okay, troops retreat. One reason why they be retreating, they don't really need them like they used to.
Tell us what it means. Tell us what that little phrase means. Migrants advance, troops retreat.
That's a very good question. Give me a second to think. If the migrants are advancing and the troops are retreating because they might not be here yet and they don't have a legal reason to be there, that's illegal what they're doing. They have the right to seek asylum. And what happened is, the young lady that just lost the presidency and the young man that just left the White House, under their administration, they destabilized Nicaragua. We had Manuel Zelaya there, and they overthrew his government. And then the oligarchs, just like the oligarchs here, they took over and created conditions. And I got a book coming out called Oligarchy, Psychopathology, and Poverty, The Connection. And that's what happened when the oligarchs come in, or the so-called business people, for those who don't fully understand the concept.
But don't take us there. I want you to be pointed at this question. What does that phrase mean? Migrants advance, troops retreat. What are we talking about?
Okay, they're coming forward, and
who said they?
The people that was destabilized, and turned into poverty and prostitution, and where they couldn't really live in their own country, so they come in here as a refugee because they've been dispossessed of the little they had, and the oligarchs have it, and the United States is the one who caused it, with their administration. So the troops, they're stepping back because they know that they in the wrong for one thing, and it's illegal what they're doing. Refugees have a right to come here, and the troops they're illegal by the guy in the White House.
Well, there are a couple of things that need a bit more refinement.
Okay.
Refugees don't have a right to go anywhere. Refugees have a right to petition.
Right. Okay. That's okay. You're
that's by international law. They have a right to petition.
You apply for asylum. Mm-hmm.
To seek asylum under international law.
Right.
Now, how has this administration dealt with the matter of asylum? And why is it important to pay attention to this particular development?
Okay, this is what I think. This is my perspective. There's an old saying, you reap what you sow. Now, the United States have gone all over the world and robbed and stole and killed and murdered people and took their resources and brought it here.
Yeah, but you're going broad. I want you to be as pointed as a needle. Go specifically to the issue. Don't preface it with anything. Just tell us what we need to appreciate in that short phrase. Migrants advance, troops retreat. What are we talking about?
Okay, the troops, if they're retreating, I think that whoever gave them the orders realized that they were wrong. And as you said a little earlier, the migrants or the refugees have that right to petition, and they're violating the law if they don't allow them at least the ability to petition, because they have legitimate reasons why they need to leave their country and come here, because we've taken everything. We supported the oligarchs there, and they've dispossessed everyone.
Okay. And now, what about this matter of the troops retreating? What does that suggest to you?
Whoever sent the troops there, if they're retreating, they realize that
Well,
they're
you
in the
know
wrong.
who sent the troops?
Yeah, the guy in the White House.
That's the guy.
Yeah, well, the president, and I don't consider him the president because as the young man that was helping the people with the things in Atlanta, Greg Palast, you know, they knocked people off the ballots all the way around, and that's how that guy really got that election. He didn't really win that with Robert Mercer and Steve Bannon and them. They went into places and knocked people off the ballots.
You're straying.
Oh,
Stay
okay.
on point.
Bring me back.
Okay, I'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
An order was given, it appeared, and a vow publicly was made by the president that he would not allow the migrant caravans, as we call them, to cross the border. There were many troops, thousands of troops. They laid down what they call concertina wire or razor wire, several layers of it at the border.
Right.
But we see that somebody has apparently given the order that the troops, first of all, we don't need that many troops at the border. And number two, all of the saber rattling that was going on from the White House, all of the anti-immigrant, anti-refugee sentiment has kind of tapered down. What does that suggest is happening, you think?
Well, it's a suggestion that they are probably having support, and maybe the courts gave an order or explained to them they didn't have a right to do that or be there.
Bingo.
Yeah, the
court stepped
it was
in.
illegal what they're doing.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely
Thank you.
correct. So all of that bravado, all of that noise that was being made about what you're not going to do and what not, and you're going to have armed guards at the border and whatnot. A federal court, ruled that they are entitled to apply for asylum.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's very good. Very good.
Okay. Now, what does that do politically for Donald Trump?
Well, what that does, that for him, he sees more people come. Well, it gives him a loss for one thing, or a setback in his particular mind and in his impaired judgment. He see that as eventually in the long run, the more people come in by a certain date in the near future, the people from other nations will outnumber the Europeans that came here and took the land from the Indians, and they see that as the beginning. I think that's what Mercer and them saw. They saw that by with 2045 that they would be in the minority. So that scares them, and they use this guy in the White House as a tool because they know how he is. He's impulsive, poor judgment, narcissistic personality disorder, and he's something to be utilized, you know, and just by a great deal of his decisions and actions, I can just tell the Neon's got him and the guy Netanyahu. Those are the ones influencing him. When I look at his behavior, I can just tell
you're going off into opinion. I want you to deal with the facts as presented to us and how you interpret the facts. One of the things that you were onto, but I think you needed to develop the point a little bit more, so you'll have some time to do that, is what does this say about the power, or what people consider to be the absolute power of the presidency?
Well, it's been limited to a point. I mean, you have two other branches of government they're supposed to keep him in check. But this guy, he violates the law, and the courts just kind of pulling him back into where he needs to be and bringing him back into bounds because he stepped out of his boundaries, and he don't understand that. You know, he has a problem with control, and I was just looking at the family today. Let me not get away from the point, but anyway, there are people with a problem around control, and people that have problems around control. That's a very juvenile or infantile psychological disorder. It's a defense that's used, and it's been used by people out overly control themselves. And when they use those defenses, what they're doing is they're acting out. They see someone else trying to take control, so they try to grab control before someone else control them. And his father was a very controlling guy, you know.
Well, thank you. So, you did a great job. The thing that we should learn from this is that President Trump was served notice that he is not, whether he thinks so or not, he is not the sole authority and power in the United States. Prior to him coming into office, there was a law, and it happens to be international law. When it comes to refugees, they have certain protections. They are not unprotected people. The fact that the president behaved in an illegal and unlawful way and used the issue to basically create an upswell of hatred and animosity and racism, of course, undergirding it all. He got away with that. But this court, in one fell swoop, served him notice. And it's going to be some time before he gets over that. But what they're saying, what the court is saying, is that the court stands, in other words, the court stands in the place of illegalities and confronting illegalities and compelling the United States to observe the law and serve notice on the president that if he doesn't know the law, maybe he ought to pay attention to those people, there may be only 2 or 3, who understand the law, because the law has been in place for a long time, especially regarding refugees. They are entitled to file applications for residence in the United States based on their circumstances from relating to where they're coming from. It could be all kinds of things that are causing them to flee. But you cannot decide by yourself. You're going to, mobilize the military, by the way, that was also against the law. Congress didn't get a chance to vote on it or even to discuss it. And he did this by, signing one of those useless presidential orders. The military was not consulted about this, even though it has major ramifications both for Mexico and the United States, the issue of the border, what happens. And the border where the migrants are attempting to cross is, in fact, a legal designated point of entry. So refugees have to get to a legally designated point of entry in order to file their papers and in order to be processed. So he got a smackdown, a big-time smackdown yesterday. And it couldn't have happened to a nicer guy. All right, so let's see who is next. Who's going to be next? Let's take you, Bruce. You're up next.
Hello, you two.
Hello. Are you up to it? You're
Yeah,
always up
well,
to it.
I hope so.
Well, let's see. Let me give you something particularly difficult. No, I don't mean that. I was just saying that in jest. More trash about wildfires.
Well, more trash about wildfires. We're talking California, and we're talking Donald Trump, and apparently what the Finnish president told him. Um, and nobody wants to deal with global warming, and I think that's the issue here.
Okay, you're right on point, but now please enlighten us, go a little bit deeper into it.
Well, California has been going through, we've been having, more fires, more, extreme weather, right? The president obviously does not support, and his base do not support the evidence that we are facing global warming. So it's just a way to deflect from the real issue by talking the way you did, as he has.
Hmm. So, what is the significance of the president's position on wildfires?
Well, is not to take responsibility. The significance is that he wants to continue with oil exploration. He wants to be political. He wants to say it is a democratic issue that California is to blame. He's deflecting. I think.
I think you're right. Absolutely, I think you're right. This requires a level of sophisticated response, and Donald Trump is incapable of that. He's incapable of understanding that it is not a matter of raking the leaves in the forest.
I'm not even sure that he cares. That what he was saying about raking leaves is so inept. I just think that he likes to say something in any moment, regardless of what it means, without weighing it. I mean, I don't think he has an ability to weigh things, And in any event, I mean, Finland is Finland or wherever it was in Europe, it has different climatic conditions to California, to even compare the two.
Plus, the president of Finland, the prime minister of Finland, says he has no idea what Trump is talking about.
But that's exactly
they don't go out into the forest to rake the leaves.
but it's impossible. I mean, it's so. I mean, look, I agree that this man is a madman. I have no problem with that, right? But it's difficult for me to understand how a madman and an idiot could be president of the United States at the same time. I understand madness. I mean, there's nothing wrong with madness, right? But, I mean, you can't be both mad and foolish. We ran a campaign one time where we said, we may be mad, but we are not stupid. We are not foolish, right? But, it never occurred to me that somebody so important in the world could be both mad and stupid at the same time. Yeah.
Okay, but you're opining, so let's get you back to the central point here.
Okay.
What does the president's position, what is it meant to communicate? Politically, what does it mean?
Well, it means that California doesn't vote Republican, right? And he wants to blame Democrats for it. He is saying, look, I mean, you people don't support Republicans, I mean, at least at the presidential level. And this may be happening because of that, right? Or the I don't care about you because you are a Democrat, or something like that, I think.
Well, it may have to do with his profound disrespect. And you're right, this is on the basis, the political judgment here is that, what good is it going to do me to take a sensible and logical position here? These are people who have died, many, many people who have died, as many as 1,000, it was said just the day before yesterday, are still missing and unaccounted for. Several homes and commercial and businesses destroyed. The damage to wildlife has been incalculable. This is by any definition, a major ecological and human disaster. The President of the United States takes the official position that A, the Democrats are to blame because, well, they didn't come up with appropriate rules regarding fires, as if intimating that they were asleep at the wheel. They did not have the foresight to put in place legal measures that would avert such critical disasters. He says it was forest mismanagement. He's saying everything except it's a natural consequence. This is what the scientists are saying. Mm-hmm. It's a natural consequence of climate change, which he absolutely pays no attention to, gives no credence to. And more than that, the blame also is to be shared by the people. You didn't get into the forest and rake the leaves.
Yeah.
It is so stupid. It is so embarrassingly stupid. It actually raises the question why no one in authority, based on his answer and response alone, has moved to declare the president not of sound mind.
Agree.
So we agree. Well, I didn't think that doesn't. It isn't as dramatic as I had hoped.
Right. Okay. If I may say a few other things, though, you just on the first point you raised about the Catholic Church. I think your analysis was brilliant, and we agree again. Just that you have to recall the papal bull of 1950. I can't remember, sometime before 1955, but early 1950s, right, where the Catholic Church basically took ownership of the Western Hemisphere, right? And there are some who still think that the Catholic Church is still the owners of all this land, right? And that type of mentality says that because we are the owners, we can do whatever we feel like, right? For instance, recently you had a Catholic bishop in Nicaragua, planning a coup to remove a sitting government, right? So I think all these things are connected, and the Catholic Church is not going to it wants to pretend that there could be judge and jury because of this mentality of ownership, right?
All right, but I have to restrain you from going because you're on a very important point. It just so happens that we want to focus in on these particular issues, and you'll have another time,
right,
to raise the issue and go into it in greater detail because it is a very important subject. I wouldn't deny that. Mm-hmm. But thank you. You answered the question quite well. Thank you so much. 888-874-4888. Let's see who's going to face the next question. We have John from New Jersey. Hello, John.
Good afternoon.
Hello, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in by my fingernails.
Well, that's good. At least you're hanging in. Me too. All right.
If I'm not mistaken, Winston Churchill once said about America, you can always count on America to do the right thing. After They've tried everything else. So I think that's appropriate for what we're going through right now and what we've been going through since the very beginning of this country.
All right, but we're doing a test here. This is test questions.
All right,
are
Chris,
you up
give me
for
a
test question?
I hope it's multiple choice.
Oh no, that multiple choice means that the element of surprise is taken, and we want surprises. We want you to be surprised about what you're being asked.
Lay it on me.
All right. An honest vote.
An honest vote.
Right.
That's 2 words. I want to answer that with one word.
Actually, that's 3 words.
Excuse me. And honest. Okay. 1 word. Impossible. Impossible in this country.
But what is the question? What is the underlying importance of this question? An honest vote.
The underlying importance of the question. The underlying importance is honesty. I mean, it's to believe what you're being told.
Okay,
which is
but
something I don't believe.
Thing.
I don't do anymore.
We just had an election, right? We just had midterm elections. Now, could you cast your answer in terms of our recent experience with the midterm elections?
Well, it's still a lot of the areas still haven't been completed yet because everybody always questions whether or not the vote was handled honestly. And frankly, the track record, we used to make fun of quote unquote third world countries because they couldn't seem to be able to have an honest vote, where we claimed that we always have honest votes, and I think George W. Bush winning over Al Gore with the hanging chads and all and his main contributor, George W. Bush, that being the person who manufactured the voting machines, all computerized voting machines, just tells me that this just opens the door for all sorts of lying and corruption because they can control the vote. I still can't believe that Donald Trump managed to come out ahead on this, and it was only because the Electoral College, which is something that should have been done away with shortly after George Washington passed away. Because that.
All right, but I want to separate your opinion from a kind of, I should say, a kind of hands-off.
How about
fantasy? Of your personal
fantasy
but I want to know, what does this mean? What does it mean when we say an honest vote? What does it conjure up in your mind? You were well on your way, so continue on your way.
It's like somebody who starts a sentence or starts speaking to you when the first words out of their mouth is, to be honest with you. When somebody says that to me, then they are hiding something. You may say you have to tell me you're going to be honest with me. I assume you're going to be honest with me. Once you have to tell me you're going to be honest with me, I know you're not going to be. So, I mean, that's pretty much, I don't know what else to say, how to answer that question. I mean, the bottom line is it honest or not? And I find more often than not it's not. We are living in our government is a criminal organization.
All right,
that have.
but you're opining, and we have to resist very strongly the urge today in this exercise to express our personal opinion. We just want to talk about what this means. What does that phrase mean? What does it conjure up in terms of an issue that needs to be discussed? An honest vote. Just saying the three words, three simple words. What relevance does it have to the broader community?
It means everything.
All right. Well, thank you. Thanks for your contribution today. And I'm hoping that you would be with us still when we move on to some other questions and you'll get a gist of it. What you're saying on a personal level hits the mark. But I wanted an analytical view of what that actually means. What does it conjure up in the public consciousness? Thank you so much for joining us today. Eric from Brooklyn, you're on the air. I'd like you to tackle that same question. An honest vote.
Hello, you trees. Love the show.
Hello.
And to me, it conjures up the fact that, first of all, I didn't participate, like I said before, but it conjures up the fact that in so many states, there was this idea of wiping people off the voter rolls because they were voting dishonestly, basically. So they were voting illegally. I think that's what those three words kind of suggest, is that people are voting where they have no right to vote, and that's changing the nature of the elections. So they must be purged. And as a result, so many people that... Huh? What is that?
Purging the voter rolls was, in fact, raised prior to the election as one of the ways in which the elections were being manipulated.
Controlled, yeah.
All right, so what does that phrase mean now to you? An honest vote. What does that mean to, quote, the American people now?
Well, I think it should, I think it means that, you know what, this question is kind of, it's kind of troubling. No,
you would pardon me for not having an ounce of pity. You're going to have to wrestle with this and give us an answer, because you have an answer.
An honest vote to me is, if you look at all the elements of the voting situation, you look at the fact that there's no way to confirm what the outcomes are in so many states because of the machines, the purging of the voter rolls, just everything all together suggests that you're not, whatever you're doing when you think you're voting, the outcome is already predetermined, so you're not really, your vote is irrelevant.
All right, but in terms of policy, what should it mean when that phrase is used? What are the guarantees that should be in place? An honest vote. It's a very simple phrase. But you're right to point out that so many irregularities, people are losing confidence. Many people are losing confidence in the process. And it is affecting morale in the country and creating a sense of distrust that we haven't seen in a long time. Of course, there have always been crooked elections. But the phrase "an honest vote" should mean something, in particular at this time, considering we've just come through the midterm elections.
Yeah, I would like to pass this on to someone that because I actually want to know. I actually want to know what this outcome is, what the answer is.
All
So,
right. Well, you gave it a good
yeah.
shot, and I tell you what, you came very close. Very, very
Oh man.
close.
Okay. All right. All
Thank
right.
you so
That's good.
much. Thanks for
Okay.
calling
Thank
in.
you.
Well,
No
David
problem.
from Brooklyn, you have a habit of being you're like right there at the right time to offer the right answer. So
Well,
let it.
that term, honest vote, to me, relates to something, as I see it, that does not exist in this country. This does not exist. The country was set up with the illusion of voting in the Constitution, and it was set up to not mean that all the people who live here were fairly supposed to vote for anything. This is an illusion, an honest vote, because who runs in most of these elections is controlled by those who rule, and they let the mass of people who do vote do what is an exercise to give the illusion of some kind of fairness or honesty. So when someone says honest voting, I'm not impressed because the system is not set up for honest voting.
In the context of the election that we just experienced, the midterm elections, does the phrase take on new meaning or new urgency?
Would you say again, new what?
New meaning or new urgency?
Well, that is illusion, a talking point, putting some kind of nice statement in terms of what's going on. But as far as I see it, the urgency is for people to do something different. And that, to me, to do something different is stop going along with this one party that controls the voting. That's the Republican Democrat Party, which is the same, just two divisions.
All right. Well, we have to leave it there. We're out of time today, but we certainly can continue tomorrow. Thanks, everyone, for calling in and contributing. I really enjoyed today talking with you. We'll see each other tomorrow. Bye-bye.